What do you do when you know you're dying? When you've led an entire nation for just 2 years and some months, but those 2 years and some months have seen more challenges than most leaders face in a lifetime. When you have to think about who will come after you, knowing that your choice will affect millions. This is the situation Abu Bakr As Siddiq faced in his final days, and the wisdom, humility, and foresight he showed in those last moments are perhaps his greatest legacy. This is the story of how Abu Bakr died the way he lived, in complete service to Allah and his religion. The beginning of the end. Abu Bakr's Khilafah lasted only 2 years, 3 months, and a few days. After all the battles, after unifying Arabia, after launching the conquest of Persia and Rome, his time was running out. Different narrations give different accounts of what caused his final illness. Some say it was grief, that he never really recovered from the death of the Prophet Muhammad, that the loss of his beloved friend weighed on him so heavily that his body simply gave up. Another report states that Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, had eaten food along with one other companion that had been poisoned. Its effect appeared 1 year later, and the other companion died on the same day as him. Whether it was grief, an illness, or the lingering effects of past events, these were only outward causes. In truth, Abu Bakr As Siddiq passed away at the exact time appointed for him by Allah, for every soul departs only by his decree. In Jumada al-Akhirah of the 13th year after Hijrah, he fell ill with a fever, and his time had arrived just as Allah had written. Leading until the last moment, even in his illness, Abu Bakr tried to fulfill his responsibilities. For the first several days, weak with fever, he would still go to the mosque to lead the prayer, but eventually he became too weak. He could no longer make it to the mosque. According to some historians, he appointed Umar ibn al-Khattab, based on consultations, to lead the prayers in his place, the same way the Prophet had appointed Abu Bakr during his final illness. The most important decision. As Abu Bakr's condition worsened, he faced the most crucial decision of his Khilafah: who would succeed him. He had witnessed the chaos that nearly erupted when the Prophet died without explicitly naming a successor. He had seen how quickly confusion could set in, how the ummah had nearly fractured. He would not let that happen again, but choosing a successor was delicate. Some companions had questions. If he didn't choose anyone, there might be chaos. If he chose wrong, there might be tyranny. If he chose someone people didn't accept, there might be rebellion. Abu Bakr approached this decision with the same wisdom he approached everything else. The consultation. He began by privately consulting the most prominent companions. He called Abdurrahman ibn Auf and asked, "Tell me about Umar ibn al-Khattab." Abdurrahman responded, "What can I tell you that you don't already know better than me? But he is better than your opinion of him." Then he called Uthman ibn Affan. "Tell me about Umar." Uthman said, "O Allah, my knowledge of him is that his inward is better than his outward, and there is no one among us like him." He consulted others. He asked Usaid ibn Hudayr and other leading Ansar. He asked Talha and Sa'id ibn Zaid. The response was nearly unanimous. Umar was the strongest, the most qualified, the most capable of bearing the burden of leadership. But there were concerns. Umar was known for his toughness, his severity in matters of justice. Some worried he would be too harsh. Some of the companions entered upon him, and one said to him, "What will you say to your Lord when he asks you about your appointing Umar as Khalifa over us when you have seen his toughness?" Abu Bakr said, "By Allah, are you trying to frighten me?" I will say, "O Allah, I have appointed as Khalifa over them the best of your people. Convey from me what I said to those behind you." The written testament. Abu Bakr decided to make his decision official and public. He called for Uthman ibn Affan, who was known for his beautiful handwriting, and dictated, "In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the compassionate." This is the testament of Abu Bakr ibn Abi Quhafa at the end of his time in the world as he was leaving it, and at the beginning of his time in the Akhirah as he was entering it. Where the disbeliever will believe, The wicked will be certain, and the liar will tell the truth. I have appointed after me as Khalifa over you Umar ibn al-Khattab, so listen to him and obey him. I have not fallen short in my duty to Allah and His Messenger and His deen and to myself and you. If he is just, then that is my opinion of him and my knowledge of him. If he changes things, then every man has that which he earned. I intended good, and I do not know the hidden things. And the ones who do wrong shall know what place of transformation they will be transferred to. Quran 26, 227. Peace be upon you and the mercy of Allah and His blessings. He asked for the letter to be sealed. Uthman took it out to the people, who then pledged allegiance to Umar even before Abu Bakr died. The private council, but Abu Bakr didn't just write a letter. He called Umar privately and gave him advice that would guide Umar's entire khilafah. Though the exact words of this private conversation aren't fully recorded, we know Abu Bakr counseled him about justice, about the rights of the people, about the responsibility of leadership, about accountability to Allah. After he left Umar, Abu Bakr raised his hands in supplication. O Allah, I only intended their good. I feared dissension for them. I did what I thought was best, and I appointed over them the best of them, the strongest of them, and the most eager for their guidance. The wisdom of the choice later generations would marvel at this decision. Abdullah ibn Masud said, the most far-sighted of people were three: Abu Bakr, when he appointed Umar as Khalifa, the companion of Musa, when she said, hire him. Quran 28 verse 26. And the minister of Firaun, when he said about Yusuf, honor his dwelling place. Quran 12 verse 21. Indeed, Umar would go on to become one of the greatest rulers in human history, conquering Persia and much of the Byzantine Empire, establishing the Islamic system of governance, creating the Islamic calendar, and spreading justice across the known world. All of that might not have happened if Abu Bakr hadn't had the wisdom to choose him and the courage to stand by that choice. The final days as death approached, Abu Bakr's concern was not for himself, but for what he was leaving behind. He called for his daughter Aisha and said, I took nothing from the wealth of the Muslims, not a dirham, not a dinar. But we used some things while I was in charge. We had a servant whose wages we used, a camel for carrying water and a cloak. When I die, send them all to Umar. Think about this. Abu Bakr had been the Khalifa of the wealthiest state in Arabia. The treasuries of conquered lands were flowing in. He could have lived in luxury, giving his children wealth, secured his family's future. Instead, he was returning a servant, a camel, and a cloak. When Aisha sent these items to Umar after Abu Bakr's death, Umar wept and said, May Allah have mercy on you, Abu Bakr. The last testament to his family, Abu Bakr also settled his family affairs with characteristic fairness and wisdom. He called Aisha and said, Daughter, by Allah, there is no one whose wealth after me I would love more than you, and no one whose poverty after me grieves me more than you. I had given you a gift of 20 camel loads of dates from my property. If you had harvested and taken them, they would have been yours. But now they are only the property of the heirs. Divide them according to the book of Allah among your 2 brothers and 2 sisters. Aisha said, Father, I have only one sister, Asma. Who is the other? Abu Bakr said, the child in the womb of Khadija's daughter, his wife. I sense it will be a girl, so take care of her. And indeed, after his death, a girl was born, Kulthum. Even in his final moments, Abu Bakr was ensuring justice and fairness, even for a child not yet born. The last words. As death drew very near, Aisha recited some poetry expressing grief. By your life, wealth does not benefit a man. When one day his spirit rattles in the throat, Abu Bakr, barely conscious, corrected her. He uncovered his face and said, Not like that. Rather say, and the stupor of death comes in truth. That is what you used to turn away from. Quran 50 verse 19. Even at death's door, he was correcting the understanding of a verse in the Quran. Then he asked, "What day is today?" "Monday," they told him. He said, "If I die tonight, do not delay my burial until tomorrow. The most beloved days and nights to me are those closest to the Messenger of Allah." He wanted to be buried quickly, so he could be as close as possible to the day the Prophet had died, which was also a Monday. The deaths. On Monday night, the 8th remaining of Jumada al-Akhirah, in the year 13 AH, Abu Bakr As Siddiq passed away. He was 63 years old, the exact same age as the Prophet Muhammad when he died. His last wish was to be buried next to the Prophet. His family carried out his wish. He was buried in the night, and his grave was dug right next to the Prophet's grave, with his head at the level of the Prophet's shoulder. The second of the two in the cave was reunited with his companion. Umar, Uthman, Talha, and Abdurrahman ibn Abi Bakr lowered him into his grave. The aftermath, when the news reached Makkah, the earth shook, literally. An earthquake struck Makkah. Abu Quafa, Abu Bakr's father, who was still alive and very elderly, asked what had happened. "Your son has died," they told him. "A great calamity," he said. "Who has taken over after him?" "Umar," they answered. "His companion," Abu Quafa said simply. He had understood. Umar was Abu Bakr's companion in faith and leadership, just as Abu Bakr had been the Prophet's. Abu Quafa himself died just 6 or 7 months later, in Muharram of 14 AH, at the age of 95. The legacy. So what did Abu Bakr leave behind? Not wealth, as we've seen. He returned even the few items he had used from the public treasury. Not a dynasty. None of his children became khalifah after him. What he left was far more valuable. 1. A united ummah. He held Islam together when it could have shattered. He fought the wars of Ridda and ensured the religion survived its first major crisis. 2. The written Quran. By ordering the collection of the Quran into one written compilation, he preserved Allah's words for all time. 3. The conquests. He launched the military campaigns that would defeat the Persian and Byzantine empires and spread Islam across the world. 4. The model of leadership. His 2-year Khilafah established the principles of Islamic governance: consultation, justice, humility, accountability. 5. The right successor. By choosing Umar and ensuring a smooth transition, he prevented civil war and continued the rightly guided Khilafah. But perhaps most importantly, he left us an example of what it means to be a companion of the Prophet, in faith, in action, in sacrifice, and in service. Who was Abu Bakr? Let's end by remembering who Abu Bakr was. He was the first man to accept Islam, believing without hesitation when everyone else doubted. He was a Siddiq, the truthful one who confirmed the truth even when it seemed impossible. He was the second of the two in the cave, the companion whose companionship is immortalized in the Quran. He was the one who spent his wealth, giving away almost everything he had for the sake of Islam. He was the one who freed the slaves, purchasing and liberating those who were tortured for their faith. He was a brave defender, protecting the Prophet physically when others were afraid. He was a calm in the storm, standing firm when the Prophet died and everyone else was in chaos. He was a warrior Khalifa, defeating apostasy and launching the conquests. He was the humble leader, living simply despite having an empire's wealth at his disposal. He was the wise counselor, choosing Umar and ensuring Islam's future. The Prophet Muhammad himself said, "No one's wealth has benefited me like the wealth of Abu Bakr." When Abu Bakr heard this, he wept and said, "Am I and my wealth for anyone but you, O Messenger of Allah?" And Ali ibn Abi Talib said, "The best of this ummah after its prophet is Abu Bakr, then Umar." This was unanimous among the companions. Some extreme groups rejected it, and because of that, the scholars used to say, whoever does not recognize the superiority of Abu Bakr and Umar is either ignorant or a deviant. The eternal mention. But beyond all of this, Abu Bakr has something no one else has. He is mentioned in the Quran by his rule forever. Every time a Muslim recites Surah at-Tawbah, they pass by the verse. The second of the two, when the two of them were in the cave, when he said to his companion, "Do not be sad, truly Allah is with us." Quran 9 verse 40. Until the day of judgment, in every corner of the world, in every prayer, Muslims will recite this verse and remember Abu Bakr. That is a legacy that wealth cannot buy, that power cannot achieve, that time cannot erase. The final lesson. If we want to take one lesson from Abu Bakr's entire life, is this. True greatness lies in complete, unwavering service to Allah and His Messenger. Abu Bakr never sought position. He never competed for leadership. He never hoarded wealth. He never showed off his sacrifices. He simply served with his wealth, his life, his time, his entire being. And because of that pure intention, Allah elevated him above all others in the ummah except the prophets. That is Abu Bakr As Siddiq. May Allah be pleased with him. The first believer, the truest companion, the defender of Islam, the humble khalifah, the man who changed history. We've reached the end of our series on Abu Bakr As Siddiq. 5 episodes covering a life that was, though only 63 years, more impactful than most people who live 100 years. I hope this series has inspired you to learn more about the companions, to study their lives, to understand what made them great, and most importantly, I hope it's inspired you to ask yourself, what am I doing with my life? Am I serving Allah's religion the way Abu Bakr served it? Am I prioritizing the akhirah over the dunya? Am I standing firm on truth even when it's difficult? These are the questions Abu Bakr's life poses to us. May Allah be pleased with Abu Bakr As Siddiq. May Allah unite us with him in Firdaus. And may Allah make us among those who love the companions and follow their examples. If you benefited from this series, please share it. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Subscribe for more content about Islamic history and the lives of the righteous. Until next time, when we will start another series on another companion, we say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.